unauthorized to fire at will.
Hey, thanks for stopping in on whenever you're watching this. We're streaming it live on Saturday, the Saturday the 13th. Is there some sort of extra special like bad luck for doing something on Saturday the 13th instead of Friday the 13th? I don't know. But yeah, welcome. I'm TC. This is MBRR Media, and this is Season 5, Episode 6 of Libertarian Lowdown. And Kerry was also Episode 5 of Libertarian Lowdown, and that's been a couple of months back now. And that should tell you how busy I've been with other stories that I haven't had another person on for Libertarian Lowdown. So I just thought we would reprise her stellar first appearance with a even more stellar second appearance. And I'm riffing on her show, Mere Liberty, because she's going to be speaking at Liberty Fest this year, and I don't know why she got an invite. I've been trying for a while. I've been trying. They won't let me in. So, actually, no. This is supposed to be Episode 7, but I missed putting Jason Purcell's episode that came between Kerry and Kerry. So I mislabeled this. So yeah, anyway, well, we're going to be talking about Liberty Fest, and we're going to be talking about the re-release of the updated book that she contributed to. And we're going to be talking about things that are progressing in political and social political culture, and maybe talk a little bit about, the anniversary that we're all supposed to be celebrating this year, which I'm having a hard time finding myself wanting to celebrate for some strange reason. So yeah, make sure you share this out, hit the thumbs up and the like. If you need to know more about Kerry, you can read the biography that's in the description, and then I'll have her shout out where you can not find her. She doesn't want you to don't find Kerry. Please do not just find Kerry. You can find her on the internet. Yes. Please don't do weird things. Don't do the weird thing. So anyway, I'm just delaying because I don't want to go do yard work. So I figured the longer I take introducing her and bringing her in, the better off my avoidance of yard work will go. But I'm still going to have to do it. So I should probably shut up and just bring Kerry in. So hello. See, I didn't even pick on you this time.
No, you didn't.
No, I didn't. No, I picked on Jason pretty hard.
Did you?
Yeah. You know who Jason is, Purcell?
I think I've heard his name, but I'm having a hard time.
He's on Substack, where all the important people are.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just started a Substack, actually.
Yeah, I saw that. I followed you. Right away. Or subbed on subs.
Subbed. How does that? Well, you can follow. I learned this recently. You can follow, and then you can subscribe.
And there's free. So you follow, and then there's free subscribers, and then there's paid subscribers. And I'm like, if you're not paying, is it really a subscription? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it gets you on it allows the articles to get sent to your email. So my Substack is entirely free, but I'm trying to promote the memberships through my website. So I do have a paid version, but
I have a behind the paywall. I have a behind the paywall section on mine where I'll have short fiction and poetry, and then my memoirs. I'm writing my memoirs, and you're like, why would anybody want to read your memoirs, TC? And you fair point. But I already have a forward for it up there, and another forward is being written. And so, yeah, anyway, enough about me. How you been?
I've been great. I mean,
busy.
Yeah, very, very busy. We just wrapped up the school year for the micro school that I founded and am the only educator for. It's called principal educator, but I'm the only one.
You wouldn't want to be the secondary. You wouldn't want to be like the tertiary educator in the school that you started, and you're the only educator in. So,
yeah.
But so you wrapped up your school year in your micro school, and I'm sorry, I'll every time you say micro school and I talk to you, I just picture micro machines and the guy with the really fast voice. I'm just like, how do you fit all of them in there? I don't. So.
Oh man, that's some nostalgia right there.
Boy, I wasn't even a kid when those came out. By the way, I was almost young adult. Yeah, we found out that you share a relatively close residence to one of my dearest friends.
Yeah.
So that was a interesting development. I never did put two and two together until after you did the last episode you were on, and I was like, oh wow, her and Kevin live in the same area. That's and then I'm like, but it's not like it's a small town, so
it's sort of medium sized.
It's very famous because of some shows, but we won't talk about that.
Yeah, famous for all the wrong reasons.
Which, considering who your mayor is, fair. So, you got invited.
Well, okay, so let me clarify this. So,
oh my gosh, I got it all wrong, didn't I? You're not speaking.
I am speaking.
Oh, okay.
So the Libertarian Christian Institute is made the arrangements with Freedom Fest to have the debate. Of course, they had to approve the topic, and that took some negotiation, because that Freedom Fest has been around for 20 years, and this is the first time that they're really having a discussion about abortion on a main stage, or not like side conversation. Like I think the last time that I went to Freedom Fest in Vegas, they had a panel discussion about abortion from Lola, Ladies of Liberty Alliance. And that was interesting, but it was all from a pro-choice angle. It was interesting because it was most of the women who are affiliated with Lola are from outside the United States. And so they had some really interesting stories about why they believe that they need abortion to be legal, and has nothing to do with the reasons that Americans want it legal. So I just thought it made for an interesting conversation. But at any rate,
I'm excited to hear that you're going to be main stage for your presentation, for your speech.
Yeah.
Right?
So I have to.
How's that feel? No pressure.
I have to make a caveat on that. So they're doing something different with their main stage, what they normally have on the main stage. So the way that they've set this up is they've got some stages that are dedicated. They've got two stages, one dedicated to, I think they call it ideas and debate. And then another stage that's dedicated to, I want to say something like entrepreneurship or innovation. And those were, when I first heard about them, they were presented as main stage sorts of things. They're not a technical breakout session. But when I got the map and everything, it turns out it's not the main stage. It's this ideas and debate stage. So
let's see it. Ideas and debate stage. All right.
Yeah.
That's still, I mean,
so it's still not,
fine.
Little breakout session. It's still in a significant spot, but they've got a dedicated place for debating things. And so that's where it will be. So
That's really cool, though. I'm glad that you guys were able to get that set up through the, even through the institute. I think it's it's high time that the liberty space in general, not just libertarians, but the liberty space in general, start to have some real conversations about abortion.
mhm.
I think one of we touched on so many things the first time you were on. I feel like every time I say that, now it's gonna have to be like more regular. The first time, and then the second, and then I'm gonna just lose count, and next thing I know, you've taken over my platform.
You're gonna
Um,
lose count after the second.
um, Old man brain. So, um, I think one of the biggest problems with the two-party system, the uniparty, as we both know as it exists, is the abortion litmus test. Either you
Mhm,
have to be rabidly pro-choice or you have to be rabidly pro-life.
mhm,
And there are so many candidates on the Republican tickets that have made that their sole plank. And, especially at the state level, and which hey, whatever you believe, that's fine. But they've made it such, I don't want to downplay how important the topic is for you or for me, but they've made it so much of who they are that they forget there's more to, especially running for office or being a political party, than just that issue. And it's worse than just being single issue. It's single-mindedness. And I'll use Texas as an example. Texans have chosen people who have all but criminalized abortion in Texas, which as a state, that's their prerogative. Every state should be free from federal oversight to choose how they're going to handle abortion. That's what we expect from states. Constitutionally, that's what we should expect. But recently, I think as early as, I think, might have just been summer of last year, and this brings up some of what I know bothers you on some levels, especially with Section 224 of the NDAA.
mm,
National. They used an officer, a deputy from a county in Texas, used flock surveillance cameras to track a woman that was pregnant across the state and into another state, and then had her charged with a crime because they alleged that she used home abortive methods, basically homeopathic ways of doing it, by tracking her movements across. He accessed nationwide, across the entire country. He accessed Flock's cameras to track her movements to then justify charging her for murder, for violating Texas abortion laws. And we need to be able to kind of sit down in the space, liberty space, and talk about, okay, I can oppose abortion, but I can also oppose state surveillance of people at that level. That's just absolute. It's just because if they can use that for something maybe I'm opposed to, and what are they, what do we say in the liberty movement? Whatever you approve of today will eventually be used against you.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that to me is just absolutely, it's just terrifying. I actually,
Yeah.
I feel for that woman on so many levels, that she felt like she had to get an abortion too, whatever her reasons.
Mhm.
And the second, just her rights completely, personal autonomy and everything, just completely violated. Like they tracked her to make sure she wasn't doing something in another state or getting something in another state that was perfectly legal there, to go after her. And that we can't live like that.
Yeah.
We just can't. And I think that's where the Republicans and the Democrats miss it so often. One
Mhm.
side wants it all, shut it all down, no matter whatever it takes. And the other side says, oh, on demand, however you want, there should be no laws, have 3 or 4 of them in your backyard a day. I don't care. And it sounds silly to say it that way, but it's a topic. Now I say that to ask a question about the gals that you mentioned at the one in Nevada, that as foreign nationals coming to speak about abortion in their countries, you said their reasons are so different from the United States?
I mean, in some respects, there's some parallels, and as I recall, a lot of these women come from socialist countries in South America, and they would talk about what law enforcement looked like against women. Part of it was surveillance.
What?
Part of it was just, living life in a socialist country where everyone is poor and everybody is hand to mouth. And, but also women have the most to lose in a socialist system. And we can talk a little bit more about why that is. And so for them, having access to abortion, they saw as being able to fundamentally protect their offspring from the socialist dictators that they were living under.
Wow. That's a commentary right there.
It is. And I think one problem, like you mentioned this conventional debate between pro-choicers and pro-lifers, and one of the main problems with that debate is that it's treated as a zero-sum game. If you concede any ground to the other, you are losing. And so that involves not listening to why women are seeking abortion, which I think is an absolute mistake. But both sides, the right, both sides view women as a victim of their sex. So the right views a woman as weak and vulnerable, and she needs a husband or a father to take care of her and protect her, and maybe even go as far as making her decisions for her. And then the left also says she's a victim of her own sex by simply having the capacity to have babies. And so she needs the state to sort of artificially correct that by allowing for legal abortion. And neither side is talking about the fact that women, whether you're an evolutionist and believe that this is all, that we've evolved to our most optimal state, or you believe that God created everything, the point is that women actually have a unique power and ability, but nobody sees it that way. And
well, yeah, I do. I see. I am not having a baby. I don't. There's no thank you at all.
Yeah.
No.
So
I stubbed my toe going out to put the chickens away last night, and that was too much pain. So
yeah. Well, and I the one thing that I can't stand from the pro-life side, the conventional pro-life side, is that the only way that they can sort of put a positive spin on their argument is to talk about how beautiful motherhood is and how beautiful it is to have a baby. And there's a very, they just make these emotional appeals. And they
terribly.
Yes. Right. They clutch. Well, they I was going to say they clutch their pearls at the idea of an unwanted pregnancy, but you should want your baby. Okay, but that's not an argument. Why don't you ask why this is unwanted?
Well, and also motherhood isn't always beautiful. There are lots of examples where motherhood is incredibly ugly, and it just like fatherhood can be incredibly ugly or incredibly beautiful. But parenting is I don't always like it when I hear people say, if I have to have a driver's license to drive a car, then there should be licensing for people to be able to have children. Now, obviously,
We shouldn't
that
have
goes against
licenses to drive a car, but whatever.
touche. Thank you for saying it, so I didn't have to. But there is something about societal pressure where you just want to look at some people and go, you should not be having, no, not you. Do not have, no, absolutely not. What can we do to convince you of your own free will, so to speak, to not have children? It's like, can we please beg you, don't reproduce? And 95% of the time I say that every time I see a politician speak, frankly. So, but and I don't mean to take away from the beautiful mothers out there who are doing a beautiful job of parenting in a beautiful way, but there is so much wrong with this glamorized idea of motherhood and having a baby. And if like that's your argument, it's going to fall apart when the woman who pulls a Susan Smith and drowns her kids in a lake gets brought up. Like, okay, so have babies so this can what? Like, and the same can be said, and I know you're going to get there. The same can be said for how the left, the Democrats in particular, argue for abortion.
Yeah. When one thing that I've learned about the pro-choice side is when they're objecting to the idea that a fetus has rights, what they're really objecting to is not fetal rights, but all of the tangential issues that are leading a woman to make the decision that she doesn't want that pregnancy for whatever reason. So the numbers sort of go like this. The top reasons are having a baby will change my situation drastically. Of course, that's true. There's a multitude of reasons for that. And they tend to be financial. They're either making progress toward building some wealth so that they can eventually start a family and they're just not ready for it. Or they're in genuine financial hardship and like they're just trying to keep their head above water. And then other reasons that follow tend to be bad relationships. They don't trust their partner, or their partner is abusive, which raises some really interesting questions about why they continue in that relationship, which we can talk about.
It takes the baby, born or unborn, pre-birth or birth, and it says, because this guy's abusive, the baby needs to be killed. Like, how is that even? What? Like,
well, so this is part of my argument is that neither side actually takes seriously the reasons why women seek abortion, because
100%.
At the end of the day, if we're looking at women through a libertarian lens, she is first of all a self-owner, right? She owns her body. She has agency. She has preference, and preferences are economically valid. And those are something that informs the market, right? Absolutely. Our preferences are market signals. And so when a woman doesn't want to have a baby, and her body's designed for this. And I'll just say as a side note, there are pro-lifers on the right who are quite militant, who are persuaded that women who are seeking abortion actually have malice towards their babies. And I don't think that's true. There's a number of pro-life organizations that help women choose life instead of abortion. And hands down, all the time, every single woman who who is there in those organizations, who are seeking help from those organizations, want to keep their baby. They don't see another option. And really what they're asking for is, help me find an option, right?
I think I mentioned this when you were on the first time, but I've done hundreds and hundreds of hours outside of abortion mills, abortion clinics, whatever, women's care clinics, whatever they, the appropriate non-offensive
the PC term is. Yeah.
And in all, like hundreds of hours, reading scripture, pleading with people to not do this to their children. And in all of that time, only once did I ever meet a woman who said, I don't give a damn about this thing. I didn't want it, and I don't care about it, and I hate it. And I think she was just, I don't think it was a genuine hatred. I think she knew what she was doing was wrong, and she had to be jaded to be able to walk in and continue with what she was doing.
Right.
And that's, having talked to so many women who chose life over abortion, every single time they were just at wit's end. And you're so right that both sides argue from just a completely asinine perspective, that they're so focused on winning that they have to come up with this dismantling, what they think is the way to dismantle this. Prove to me that you don't hate the baby by keeping it. And if you really do think that that woman hates that baby, and you somehow manage to cajole her enough that she chooses to keep it, that doesn't prove she doesn't hate the baby at all. It doesn't prove that at all. And all it does is it saves the baby's life, which great. But what have we done to help that woman? Whether you're talking about her spiritual condition, the economic conditions, the relational conditions, across the board, it does not address any of that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if we, if society understood that the woman is a self-owner, has rights, has bodily autonomy and agency, and also the fetus has rights, has bodily autonomy, has a right to not be aggressed against, right?
Absolutely.
If we understood that as sort of our baseline, then what happens is her preferences suddenly mean something. They are market signals. If a woman says she can't afford to have a baby, she's probably right. And the left will say, oh, well, then we need to increase welfare programs so that she can afford her baby. And the right will say, will sort of dismiss it, hand wave it, and be like, it's not as expensive as you think. Right.
Right.
And the reality is that, one, hand waving it and dismissing it is completely ignoring the market signal, and is in some sense gaslighting her into questioning whether or not she actually has the ability to assess her own financial situation. And then the left's solution to the problem actually just makes the problem worse, right? When you increase spending, you're increasing the cost of living, you're making it even harder for future women to be able to say, I can afford to have a baby. So neither side is solving the problem.
Do you think philosophically the left, the rabid abortion proponents on the left, recognize that to some degree, and that's why they are so rabidly, you can't afford it? Kill it.
Yeah, well, I call it crumbs from the table of justice. Oh, sorry, you can't have a baby and we can't seem to solve this economic problem. Here, have an abortion. And it is fundamentally also a complete dismissal of the woman, because and gaslighting her,
Well, it's not addressing what you say the market signal that she's sending is. It's not addressing it at all.
Nobody's taking her seriously as an actual economic agent. When in fact that is what she is.
Yeah, which is exactly why the rates of abortion are so astronomically low in upper middle class into the wealthy community or the wealthy sections of our society, because it's not the money for them. They can make arrangements. If they really don't want the child, they can make arrangements to adopt it out. They can make arrangements to let the other parent have the baby, on and on and on. And there's just so much dismissal by both sides of the reality of the economic classes and the social classes that are having abortions. They just are not recognizing. And I think part of it is, quite frankly, the left and the right, for the most part, despise the poverty-stricken social class. They despise them.
Oh, yeah.
And the right does it all the time. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. I made it, you can make it. And the left is like, you're doomed to poverty because that's just your character. So we're just going to have to step in and have the state take over your life for you. Yeah, and that's a hatred. That's a hatred of, like, you literally are incapable of bettering your life unless the state does it for you.
It's in both paradigms, or on both sides of the paradigm. Women are incapable of taking care of themselves and need somebody else to do it. And it's either going to be a father or husband on the right or the state on the left, but neither believes that a woman can do that herself. And actually, one thing that's becoming very popular on the right is what's known as pronatalism, pronatalist policies. And that is just socialism with conservative values. And so there's now a lot of pro-life organizations out there. Americans United for Life is one of them, who are advocating for, government mandates for, for prenatal services, for parental leave, after the baby's born, for, all of these social programs that were pushed by the left. Now the right is going to push for them and has started to push for them in the name of protecting the fetus, which, like, it doesn't matter why you're pushing the socialism. It's going to ruin
socialism.
It's going to ruin what you're trying to achieve.
Do you plan when you get to your thoughts and ideas speech on that stage? Obviously, you're going to be walking into a very mixed reception, as far as you're probably going to have people from both sides of the discussion there. You're going to have people who really, which blows my mind, but I'm still surprised by the number of people out there who just don't know how they feel about the topic. I'm like, really? In modern America, you don't know how you feel about this issue? That's almost refreshing. But do you think that whatever you're planning, and I don't want you, to do a surprise gender reveal, so to speak, of your speech. Do you think that what you're planning on saying in your speech is going to shock both sides?
So
because you are pro-life. You are absolutely 100% pro-life. You don't believe in abortion at any level for any reason.
Yeah, I think of myself, my pro-life argument, my libertarian pro-life argument takes very seriously women's rights, women's bodily autonomy and agency. But I'm as militant as you can possibly get, because I don't believe that abortion should be legal under any circumstance. I mean, I'll qualify that and say if there's a credible imminent threat to the mother's life, then yeah, you save the life that needs to be saved. So ectopic pregnancy, for example, needing to deal with that is protected because that poses a credible and imminent threat to her life.
Well, you're likely to lose both lives.
Yeah. So at any rate, I'm as militant as you can get within the framework of a woman has bodily autonomy and agency, and I totally support and uphold that. But
so does the child.
Yeah. After my Soho Forum debate with Walter Block, the people
Which,
that,
by the way, ladies and gentlemen, she absolutely destroyed him. She just wrecked him like Marvin Heemeiler and the Killdozer. So shit. It's true. You can laugh, but and I'm not just flattering you. It's true. You're like, hey, look at me. I'm in my philosophical Killdozer, and Martin Block or Walter Block was just literally a cinder wall. So the people who contacted me after that, like I got tons of messages from people I didn't know on the internet who came across it. And the people who really appreciated it most were people that I call are in the gray middle, and they constitute the majority of Americans. And these are the people who, like, if you read the Gallup polls, there's they kind of divide Americans into three groups. And you've got on the right, you've got the people who think that abortion should not be legal under any circumstance whatsoever. Then on the left, you've got people who believe that abortion should be legal in all circumstances. And then you've got the majority middle that comprises about 55%. And they're the ones who say abortion should be legal only under certain circumstances. And they might lean pro-life or pro-choice. But they're the ones who I would say recognize there's a level of complexity that they don't know how to sort through in their own mind. Mm-hmm. And so, seeking abortion is fundamentally a failure to imagine what the solution to the problem is, right? And for many people, you get to a point, like I spoke to somebody just last weekend about the debate and what I was going to be presenting. And his sort of mental block was, what do you do with mothers who are addicted to drugs? And his own personal experience told him that people who are addicted to drugs are beyond help. You can't help them. And so, and he's got some personal experience with that. And so he couldn't imagine what the solution to a drug addicted mother might be. And so he said, we need abortion legal in that situation. So this is what the majority middle does, is they'll start to reason through, and they'll get to a point where they're like, I can't imagine what the solution is, therefore abortion should be available. And from a human rights theory perspective, that, number one, isn't an argument, a failure to imagine what might be. It doesn't work as an argument. But number two, it's if we believe in a free market, and that the free market is there to solve society's problems, and we're always going to have problems that need a solution, right? Just because you can't imagine what the solution might be doesn't mean that somebody out there isn't working on a solution to the problem. And I can imagine there is one organization that deals with addiction very successfully. The state, when it deals with addiction, assumes that the person is beyond help, and all they can do is just sort of. And there again,
yeah,
there's two sides to that perspective. One, lock them away forever, or two, just give them free drugs, because that's all they're ever going to do. It's that stupid binary of the uni view, uniparty system. I blows my mind that you met somebody who's just absolutely convinced that once a person's addicted to drugs, there's no coming back for them. Like there's literally thousands of thousands of cases a year of people who are like,
it's interesting. It's interesting because in his case, it was his own mother that was addicted. And I didn't ask about his mother's story, but he was convinced that that she was effectively beyond help. But he was also addicted to drugs at one point and seemed to overcome it.
boy, that's just so.
But you know, that just what that does is it creates cognitive dissonance. Like,
Yeah, it's just
obviously
like
he's having some cognitive dissonance.
I'm experiencing it just hearing you talk about it. Like, I don't know how you can.
Yeah. Now,
there's some bitterness there, is what it is, and
possibly
I have bad experience. Or, you know, my mom's a drug addict, and she's never coming back, and she probably was a bad mom because she was doing drugs, and then I ended up doing drugs. So I'm just going to be bitter and say, I don't.
Yeah. So from a libertarian perspective, if number one, we recognize that all human beings have self-ownership and therefore you cannot aggress against them, right? And the fetus has, self-ownership status and therefore a right to not be aggressed against. What that does is it creates a baseline from which the economy then responds to problems, right? If it's legal to abort, then that distorts the market signal that says, hey, we need to solve the problem of, expensive prenatal care, or we need to solve the problem of mothers who are addicted, or we need to solve the problem of abusive relationships. Like, they don't get that signal if what the state is doing is stepping in and saying, here, have an abortion.
Right. Well, and it's the same with, we've got a guy that's running for office. I mentioned him pre-show. I'm not going to go into his name right now, but we've got a guy in Minnesota that's running for statewide office to go to Washington, D.C. And he wants to, out of one side of his mouth, tell everybody that he's a small government, small tax guy, but at the same time wants to build programs to fund adoption. And I'm like, that's not the answer. The answer is to abortion is not the federal state stepping in and paying for people's adoptions. That's not going to that's going to actually cause a bigger disparity between the poor and the wealthy, because the poor are going to end up even poorer because you're going to have to tax them more to pay for programs for rich people to adopt their babies.
And likely it will turn into a situation of fraud, misuse and handling of money. It could also turn into, because we haven't solved this problem yet, it could turn into a means of human trafficking within government sources.
Okay, neither one of those things have ever happened. I may or may not live in a state that has never had a fraud issue to the tune of billions of dollars,
especially related to children. Especially related
to children and leering centers. So
so
I can't believe that you don't think government is the solution to the problem of abortion. You know, and after I say that, make that cheeky comment. The reality of this is I don't always show it. Kerry is much better about it than I am, but Kerry is a devout Reformed Christian, and not once has she mentioned the solution to this has to be Christianity. And that is not to downplay the importance of people's faith, but that's the other argument that stands in the way of addressing this issue, is they just need Jesus. These people just need Jesus. No, there are lots of people who literally are born again, that have come to saving faith in Christ, that have gotten abortions. So unless you want to argue that a Christian is incapable of getting an abortion by the very fact that they're Christian, then, which by the way, you clearly don't read and understand scripture very well if you think that's impossible. The argument that Kerry is making is intrinsically based on her clinging to natural rights, no matter where you believe those natural rights come from. Is that a fair way of saying that? That you don't have to be a dyed-in-the-wool Christian to make this argument against abortion?
Yeah. What you don't. I mean, libertarians are the ones that first articulated the idea of or the concept of self-ownership, and that wasn't from a Christian perspective. I would say Murray Rothbard developed sort of the natural law view of it, but he wasn't Christian. He did happen to be married to a Presbyterian. Did you know that?
Well, then he's Presbyterian by
by
proxy,
extension.
by proxy, by extension. You know. Well, even if you go back to Spooner, Spooner didn't argue self-ownership in the way that we argue it today, but Spooner's entire premise was really for Spooner, self-ownership was really why he believed what he believed and why he fought so ferociously against slavery and also opposed the Civil War.
Yeah. For like, it like atheistic or non-Christian libertarians don't have a problem understanding self-ownership. And they don't have a problem with understanding rights as inherent in our humanity. Now, one thing that I've argued, and I alluded to this in the debate with Walter Block, is if you're going to argue that on the one hand, rights are inherent in humanity, but on the other hand, argue that a woman's rights supersedes that of the fetus, or she gets to make the decision about whether to bring that human into the world, then our rights actually aren't inherent in humanity. Our rights are inherent in our mother's decision, which means that
that opens a whole can of worms.
Yeah, that means that the prevailing origin of our rights is actually matriarchal. And that, by the way, is the progressive feminist argument, is that our rights
100%.
is that our rights come from the matriarchy.
Yeah.
So by necessity, if you don't have to be a Christian, obviously, but if you believe that your rights are inherent in humanity, they cannot come from your mother's decision to keep you or abort you.
And I think the reason that people struggle with that philosophically, the people who are intellectually honest enough to struggle with it philosophically, I'm just sorry, there are people out there who they don't have the intellectual honesty. They don't have the self-awareness to struggle with it. But the ones who do have a hard time with the idea of self-ownership because of how dependent children are upon the parent. And the reality is that the entire goal of parenting, the entire goal of parenting is to produce an autonomous, self-reliant human being, and that process begins at the moment of conception. Like you're not having that baby and going, gosh, I hope that this thing lives in my house for the rest of its life and mooches off me and eats all my food and drinks all my beer out of the fridge for the rest of its natural born life, and never cleans or mows the lawn. Which I'm just going to stretch this out until you tell me you have to go, because I really don't want to mow my lawn today. So, but that's the whole thing is being a parent is recognizing the self-ownership and the autonomy of your child and stepping in, not to take away its autonomy, but to form its autonomy, the child's autonomy, starting at the earliest age possible. You're not telling the kid don't touch the hot stove because you're trying to ruin its life and have control of it. You're trying to teach the child about autonomy. And one of the ways that you do that is warning it about the things that are going to hurt the child.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that's like, once you start to look at, kids, or in my case, grandkids now, it changes how you even talk to your children, or grandchildren. This is a really good example of I don't know why, but my grandchildren are feisty. I don't know where they get it.
No.
And I had no idea. But I say to when they're in those moods where they may want to hit one another, or even me when they're in a bad mood, like, we in Grandpa's house, we don't hit other people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the right. And I say that to them at their young age. You don't have the right. It's not okay for you to hurt another person because you're angry. And I would have not done that prior to coming to this embracing of natural rights, and that everybody is autonomous and has self-ownership. There would have been like, you want to hit your little sister? Come over here. I'm going to smack your hand. It's like, wait a minute. Why is that okay? But yeah, the whole point of parenting is to realize the autonomy of your child and help it get to a place where it can exercise that autonomy responsibly.
Yeah. So one of the pro-choice arguments, and this will come up with my interlocutor, Dr. Michael Shermer, who makes a personhood argument, argues that you don't have full personhood until you're born, basically, on the grounds that you're a developing human being.
Where do you draw the line on the developing then?
Yeah. So part of the problem with the personhood argument is that when we create definitions of personhood, we are creating those definitions based on our experience as adults. And then we try to project that onto the fetus, who obviously isn't an adult, and then tries to make the argument, okay, because it's developing, it's only potential. But the thing is that human beings, when you calculate the entire lifetime of a human being is in actual development until about the age of 25 to 30. So you spend a good third of your life in development. And if you're going to choose any point in time between conception and fully formed frontal lobe, if you're going to choose any point in time during that time frame as to when rights begin, you have to be arbitrary. And
it's like the age of accountability for Christians.
Yeah.
When is that?
Yeah.
6?
Yeah. And if we're going to hand over to the government the ability to choose on that timeline when arbitrarily human rights begins, then we're right back to where we were with chattel slavery. We're right back to where we were, quite frankly, when women's rights weren't recognized.
Right.
And so that doesn't actually work out as an argument.
It's actually if it does work out as an argument for you, it's a dangerous trend that you're setting.
Yeah. Well, every argument that's been used against fetal rights, or at least against recognizing fetal rights as equal to the woman's, every argument that has been used against that has been an argument that's been used against a born human being, and is the source of marginalizing groups in such a way to say, yeah, you're human beings, but you don't deserve rights. And that has happened to women in particular. So every argument used against the fetus has been an argument that's been used against women. And that creates an internal incoherence that invalidates the theory altogether.
People don't realize how recently, and if you don't believe me, you can go, not you, Kerry, I know you know that, but if you're watching or listening, there was a time in the very recent history of the United States where a woman couldn't even open a checking account unless her husband agreed to it. And if she didn't have a husband, then her father had to go with her to do it. to get to open a bank account of any kind.
Mm-hmm.
So just, and neither one of us are stark raving mad fourth wave feminists.
No, in fact,
I'm stark raving mad, but I am not a fourth
feminist.
wave feminist.
Yeah, in fact, one thing that I've learned is rape laws, before they were defined the way they're defined now, which I still view as problematic, majorly problematic. But before their modern day definitions, rape was defined as a property rights violation of the father husband, not a property rights violation of the woman.
When you brought that up the first time you were on, the people that messaged me privately are like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, because
excuse me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because women have been considered property of either their fathers or their husbands.
It's why chattel slavery led to so much I know you like to use it, grape of female slaves, was because it wasn't immoral for a slave owner to do that, because
she was his property.
She was property, and she wasn't human.
Mm-hmm.
So people, when they make this personage argument on anything, like, you just are opening, that's one of those, it's one of those holes you don't want to plunge down into.
Yeah, so there was laws on the books, I believe in Ohio, up to like the 1960s, that said that a married woman in particular does not well, I don't know about that, but I know that existed. But what I'm referring to is that a married woman couldn't be considered to have her own individual rights because she's married and her identity has been subsumed into her husband's. That was up to the 1960s. So, women today are living in a blip in history.
Literally a blip. It's like,
it's novel. It's novel. For most of human history, we have been viewed as property, as less than human, as deficient males, as just incubators for the man's offspring. We have been dehumanized in a number of ways, and all of those arguments are still arguments that are used against the fetus. And to naively think that we've reached a moment in time where we're not going backwards and women's rights will never be violated again by government is naive. Right now, like in America, and thanks to second wave feminism to some degree, we have experienced our own, several decades of individual women's rights. And it has been, I think, a net positive. I think that there's some net negatives. I think that there have been some net negatives, like the birth control pill, for example.
It's funny that you bring that up, because
not for any of the reasons that the militant pro-lifers talk about. But I do think it's a net negative.
He asked this question about that, actually. I don't get it. I'm no alpha male, but I asked women if I've dated if they're on the pill. Where are these women? I believe he meant to say, why are these women not on birth control? And if you're referring in particular to what is commonly referred to as the pill, as you stated there are so many hormonal reasons for that. And they're now finding out it's dangerous for women to be on it for a short time, let alone a protracted period of time.
And this is because this is a direct consequence of women being permitted to become doctors, to become researchers to get into those
As
spaces.
a caveat, everybody just know she's not saying women shouldn't be allowed to do those things. That's not what she's saying.
Well, because you have women who are now
particular philosophies.
Well, it's not even that. There are women researchers who literally started researching menopause because they got into menopause and realized that the medical literature and the medical research was scant on it. And so the only reason why we have research on women's bodies right now and our physiology, our anatomy and physiology to the depth that we do, which is also relatively new, like in the past 10 to 15 years new, is because female doctors and female researchers reached this point in their own lives and realized, oh, nobody studied this before. So now we're going to study it. And so now you have these women doctors and researchers who are looking into the pill, who are looking into how our bodies actually operate for menstruation and menopause and perimenopause. And we're learning all kinds of new, amazing things. But one of the things that we're learning is that the birth control pill had a disastrous effect on women's fertility, on her hormones, which if you know anything about biology, hormones are the way that we maintain homeostasis. And they're vital for like not even just reproduction. Like a woman's brain operates on estrogen. And if she has low estrogen, her brain's not going to work properly. She's going to have brain fog. She's going to be overly emotional. She's going to be like, if she has her hormones in balance, then she can think clearly.
And things like the pill mess that up.
Yeah. And they've even found that women who are on the pill choose different types of men. Men who aren't, looking for making babies, aren't looking for stability, embodying any of those things that we typically associate with a proper masculinity. And so it even changes her decision-making ability. And these aren't Christian researchers. They're women who are finally learning things about about a woman's body and saying, hold on, wait a minute. This is not what we were taught. What we were taught is that the male anatomy and physiology is generic medicine, is generic human. And, women's bodies are whatever man's is not. And so
I'm an advocate for more women's studies because I would like to be able to understand women. That was bad. I'm sorry. I am developing a package that I'm going to offer through merchandise. I'm going to call it the Perimenopausal Men's Rescue Kit. It includes a passport. Edibles. And keys to a very fast vehicle. And that's so you can get away. Yeah. As fast as possible. No, I'm kidding. And that was not true. I'm not sure. I'm not developing that. So, but no, it's that. Yeah. The arguments that are made. Site mapping said birth control pills have advanced over 60 years. You're not up to date on research. I would argue that you probably, well, I know you don't know my guest if you don't think that she's up to date on her research. So, yes, the pills have changed, but they're still based on hormonal impact. That's the only way that birth control pills work. It has to be, or it has to, like, literally, there's no way around it. It's a hormonal impact issue. And so the research that's out there right now is current research. Yeah.
It's current research. It is done on the modern day pill. And yeah, it is not good for females' bodies. Now, I am not, don't mistake that as I don't think that women should be allowed to use contraceptive methods. I certainly think that they should. I don't think that we should ban the abortion pill. But I also think that if women actually knew what that thing was doing to their bodies, they would choose barrier methods over hormonal contraception.
Absolutely.
And nobody out there can advocate for a woman's bodily autonomy and agency if what they're advocating for is her being kept from information about what pharmaceuticals are doing to her body and allowing her to make her own decision on that.
Well, and if you think we are at a place now where transparency with the pharmaceutical industry is literally now impossible,
Yeah.
So whether it's a jab in your arm for some stupid virus that or it's GLP-1s.
Oh yeah.
No, like what we have no idea what prolonged sustained use of any pharmaceutical is going to do to you, because they're rushed out to the market with next to no real research. And I don't know, it's just mind-blowing. And also there is an argument to be made too for, if you're concerned about pregnancy as a guy, why are you not taking measures to prevent that pregnancy? If you're going to be sexually active, you should be taking those measures instead of pushing it off on the female. And she shouldn't be the woman shouldn't be pushing it off on you. You should both be taking measures. But nobody wants to do that. We want bodily autonomy until it comes time to step in the way of my fun.
She has the woman has a greater incentive to prevent contraception, because she's the one who bears the upfront cost to carrying the baby. And so, even if we can say, morally speaking, a man should take some responsibility and also take contraceptive measures, whatever those are, okay, fine, but who's bearing the initial cost, the initial upfront cost? Well, she is. And so, and that is not an injustice. That's just a fact of reality. And it's something that should be factored into a woman's decision-making process, either, in choosing the person that she's sleeping with, choosing to do that before or after marriage, choosing contraceptive measures, even more indirect choices like what's she doing for a job and how is she taking care of herself and where in town is she living and things of that nature. She should be taking into account the fact that she bears a higher cost if she gets pregnant in, unplanned and unwanted. And women just we need to be honest with women about that and stop playing this game of, because you bear the greater cost, you're either a victim of nature or you need, a father or husband to be making these decisions for you. No, we just need to be honest with women because actually their decision-making ability is pretty dang good. Neuroscience is really interesting on women. We have a greater ability to connect the logical parts of our brain with our emotional parts of our brain. And this is where our intuition comes from. So a woman's intuition is actually a measurable phenomenon, and is not a result of hysteria. But we need to be able to have good information, and we need to recognize what it is that we are, and that we're not deficient males. We're just different. Like the difference between a woman's physiology and a man's physiology is literally like the difference between a sprinter and a long distance runner.
I will never understand sprinters. I know. The purpose of a sprinter, right, is to do short bursts of powerful energy, right? The point of a long distance runner is to
is to
Enjoy
be able
life,
to-
frankly. That's it's to enjoy
well,
life. That's
it's for stamina. And so like even and this is a fact about a woman's muscular structure versus a man's. A man's muscular structure is designed for bearing more weight and shorter bursts of energy. And a woman's muscular structure is designed for stamina, like long-term strength. It can't bear as much weight as the man's muscular structure. But stamina is what a mother needs in order to be a mother, not just to give birth, but to actually care for her kids, multiple kids, even during the day. She requires stamina. And that's built into our physiology. So, that's just one example. And women should know this about themselves.
That's a hard sell these days, Kerry, because we're told that there's absolutely no difference between men and women, or men who are born women.
Yeah.
Or
I
women
feel like
born...
I feel like during this debate, I'm going to accidentally open up a can of worms.
Right? Oh no, hard no. That you just kind of answered the question I asked a long time ago before we got, like we did last time. Just kept. You are going to open up a can of worms, I think, because this is a conversation in the liberty space. It does not happen. It's not happening. It's not happening in a tangible way where both sides are coming at the argument from an actual natural rights perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that is one of the hang-ups with a lot of frankly, the us versus them mentality, the left versus right mentality is Christian versus Muslim mentality. If there's a group of religious people in the world that should all agree on abortion, it's Christians and Muslims.
Except they don't agree on women's rights.
Right, but they don't agree on women's rights. Huge section of Christianity to this. I'm shocked by the number of people within Christianity today that are embracing the radical patriarchal movement where women have no rights. Yeah. I'm just, how did we get here? How did this I don't understand how this happened.
Because we let the Supreme Court decide what women's rights were, and we haven't. When it comes to articulating a theory of human rights, what has not been done is not just conceptualizing what human rights are, but reconciling human rights between man, woman, and offspring.
Right.
You have to do it between all three, because, even though there's a common humanity to us, like, men and women have the same organs, obviously, with a few exceptions, but the way our bodies operate is completely different. Our experience of life is completely different. The things that are important to us are completely different. And that stems in part from our relationship to our offspring. And no human being is brought into existence by their own free will. Everybody's brought into existence without any say in the matter whatsoever. And yet we've got this idea that everybody has human rights. If that's true, you have to have a theory that reconciles man, woman, and offspring. And
Absolutely.
if you haven't reconciled between woman and offspring, you haven't reconciled for 2/3 of humanity, you have an invalid theory of human rights.
100%. And a lot of people out there have a very invalid theory of human rights.
Yeah. And we are, and women in particular are depending upon the government to protect them. But historically, the government has not protected them. We are living in a blip. And so if we want to actually maintain our rights as women, number one, we need to be honest with ourselves about our relation to our offspring. And number two, we have to understand what those human rights are and where those boundaries are drawn. I believe self-ownership and non-aggression answers those questions. And then we need to understand how to defend our own rights, because there are going to be people out there, whether they are other men or religious groups or government agencies, who are going to try to violate our rights. And the only people that are going to protect them is us.
I'm answering a question. I'm just going to do this. Stamina, really? Men can run 10 times longer than women. Has any women beat a man in a 25K marathon? Agreed with you till that part. You're not understanding what she was doing. She wasn't literally making a physical comparison about men and women in sports. She's talking about, it's an analogy. Literally just an analogy. That's all it was. It was an analogy. And she's 100% correct. Men are meant for a very particular type of work, and women are meant for a very particular type of work. And their bodies, whether you believe they randomly evolved into that or randomly or were created or designed to be that way, they were designed to be that way. And your very statement that men can run 10 times longer than women actually proves their point. Like, yeah, we understand that.
Yeah, this is an example of zero-sum thinking. Is if women have an ability that men don't, then men must be worse at it, or vice versa, right? This is where the idea that a woman is a deficient man came from. This is a very ancient idea. But if a woman's anatomy and physiology doesn't do the things that a man's anatomy and physiology does, then therefore she must be deficient. That's false. What a woman can do, her anatomy and physiology, it can do things men's can't. Our immune systems, for example, are much stronger and more sensitive than men's. And any mother who's ever had to take care of a household of sick kids and her sick husband know exactly what I'm talking about.
That has never happened.
And quite frankly, men who have colds tend to act like babies. No offense, no. But
you're fired.
So where this isn't about saying men are better than women or women are better than men. Men and women are different.
Designed to do different things.
And they are designed or created or adapted or evolved, however you want to say that, to do different things and to do those different things well.
Which is why women don't belong in law enforcement or in combat.
Yeah, I don't think that. I served in the Air Force. I don't think women should be in combat.
Yeah. Women should not be in law enforcement or in combat because those are the domains of men. And it has nothing to do, like,
the other thing about women's abilities is, and men's abilities, quite frankly, is it's on a Pareto distribution. So of course you're going to have men and women who fall outside of that. That's not the point.
We don't have to. That's the thing. We could caveat and not all.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I guarantee you that when I was in high school, there was probably a female college runner, long distance runner, that could beat me.
Yeah.
In the 1600 meter. I guarantee you there was.
Well, and
there's a 55-year-old woman out there somewhere right now that would kick my butt in a 5K.
So sure. And even better comparison is, men who put on those pregnancy simulators to simulate the pain of
so weird
labor. And they can't tolerate the pain. Women can tolerate the pain. Because
men rip those things off. They're like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah. And they tend to rip it off very early on in the simulated contractions. So yeah, again, this is not about men being better than women or women being better than men. That's not the case. It's that our bodies, our anatomy and physiology are both built for something different, and they do those different things very well.
Absolutely. Well, we beat that topic to death. So I want to shift a little bit before
going to mow your lawn.
going to mow my lawn. I love mowing, but I don't love mowing. Mostly I get distracted by my woodchuck that's taken up in residence in my property. I gave him a nickname and everything already, so I'm turned into a giant softie. But Stubby Nupkins is his name.
Stubby Nupkins.
Yeah, Stubby. I don't know why. I just looked at him and I'm like, you look like something out of a fairy tale. So,
aw,
it's a she, and she has 3 pups running around here. So, but anyway,
we have scorpions and rattlesnakes.
You can keep those things. I like snakes, but I just don't need scorpions and rattlesnakes in my yard. But but I have grass and you don't. So
fair point.
Yeah, so I'm going to shift up the pro-life perspective on you a little bit, and I'm going to ask you what your theory or your philosophy is on the pro-life right and their absolute, and we've seen it since February 28th, their absolute abandonment of the idea that all life is important. Where do you think that comes from as we, as we watch the pro-life right in the United States defend geopolitical Zionist Israel, killing women and children in Gaza, our own president threatening to annihilate an entire civilization since February 28th. Where is the disconnect in the pro-life argument on the right? Because I know the libertarian perspective on this very well. Why is there such a disconnect in seeing it? Why is and you said it earlier, the natalization, pronatalism. Why is an unborn child vastly more important to the pro-life right than innocent women and children around the world? And somebody even asked earlier, why is a pregnant woman who gets murdered and loses a baby, why is that considered a double homicide?
Yeah, because even the pro-life, the conventional pro-life position, whether you're talking about the incrementalists or the abolitionists, still have an inconsistent theory of human rights. Okay, if you have to reconcile man, woman, and offspring, and that has an implication for all other groups of people, right? And if you are willing to dehumanize one of those 3 or 2 of those 3 or all 3, you are going to have and promote policies that treat other human beings as less than and not entitled to rights. And so, for pro-lifers, it's very obvious that pro-choicers do not recognize the rights of the fetus. And pro-lifers also tend to get very upset with me when I tell them that they don't recognize the rights of the woman because, all they're thinking about is women's rights as, choose to abort. And they think that the rest is given. But when a lot of them, not all of them do this, I hear it mostly from abolitionists and, the more militant of pro-lifers. When they talk about women in with unwanted or crisis pregnancies, they speak about that woman in a very demeaning way, in a very anti-human way, which says that their fundamental ground motive with human rights involves understanding that some humans don't have rights. And that's the same exact ground motive that the pro-choicers have. And so it doesn't make it like, the left is happy to dismiss people who didn't take the jab and say, throw them in camps, arrest them, keep them on lockdown, like let them die. even like celebrating. I think Biden at one point was like, this is going to be a winter of death or something like that, like celebrating that. And the people on the
They're
right,
at least consistent in their view on the importance of life.
yeah, well, on the right, you still have the same thing, because it doesn't make sense.
I was referring to the left. The left is
Yeah.
consistent on how important to them. No life is important except for their own. So
right. Well, and I'm saying that yeah,
the right's
that
the same way.
the right is the same way. And you know, one of the first things that I pointed out when I did a criticism of the pro-life movement is I said the one person standing between the fetus and the rest of the world is the woman. And if you are not going to take her into account, you cannot save the fetus. You just can't. So yeah.
Well, it becomes it's an exercise in futility, because you almost have to not almost, and you've said this in different ways, you have to dehumanize the mother to overinflate, and I don't think it's possible to do that, but you are dehumanizing the mother in your obsessed perspective that the child's life is the only thing that matters in this moment. And when you, in there again, you've said this in different ways, and when you do that, you have just absolutely crumbled humanization altogether. Like it just, it all starts to crumble. Because if the baby is more important than the mother is unimportant. If the mother is unimportant, then the child is unimportant. If the child's unimportant, then there is no importance to any segment of humanity. And therefore, honestly, there are people on the left who would say this: the world would be better off if all of humanity died. And again, sometimes when I hear politicians speak, I'm like, you know what? You're right. Go ahead. Just drop the bomb. Let's just get it over with.
Yeah.
But those are a little bit more black pill moments of my life. But I just wondered if you were, as we look around, and we're seeing it. We are absolutely, we have been since October 7th of 24, that October 7th was a terrible, terrible day. It was a terrible event. It tragic. But the escalation in the loss of life and the vocal proponents of it, who people out there screaming that it needs to happen more and more and more, and are almost all without fail pro-life right-wingers. They're almost all pro-life right-wingers. And I'm like, what have we been fighting against abortion for so long? If those people aren't important, that's what I do not understand. If those people aren't important, then why are you fighting so adamantly for an end to abortion? And I just, I don't see a philosophical way for them to make it consistent.
It's a power play. If a man is opposed to abortion and also views the woman as being, her only purpose is to provide offspring for him, then that triad, man, woman, and offspring, is about power and hierarchy and his property, and completely neglects 2/3 of humanity, 2/3 of the equation, woman and offspring. And, he can be cynical about that. He can be upset that there aren't, women waiting in the wings to be his personal incubator. But one thing that is true, that we have to deal with, and I think it's a good thing that we have to deal with this, is that women right now understand that they have individual rights, individual human rights that are distinct from a father, distinct from a husband, distinct from their offspring. Now, I do believe women need to also understand how that's internally consistent. But if a man thinks that we're going back for to a time where women are property and you get to treat her as an incubator, forget it. You're not going to get a woman anytime soon.
I think that'd make a great experiment. Send the guys out to, with their Google glasses on and have that be part of the pickup line. How would you like to be my lifetime personal incubator? I think that would there'd probably end in a lot of assault, so that would not be good. But
I don't know. You do have the trad life movement.
Do we? That is, I think that's all a sham. That's all.
Oh, it's totally a fad. It also happened in the early 2000s. It's a fad for sure. Yeah. And then women, who got involved within it suddenly discovered that they are individual people.
Yeah. Somebody asked a headship question earlier, and I thought it was funny because you're asking a Presbyterian woman that if she were married, if her husband would be her head, and I guarantee you Kerry's answer is yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what headship is within the roles of the Christian marriage.
Yeah. And I uphold the Westminster Confession of Faith, and part of the Westminster Confession of Faith is Christian liberty and freedom of conscience. And if you read those sections, apply them to women, patriarchalism is invalidated. It is not confessional. And that's not the only place, of course, but it's the most stark.
Same thing with the
example.
London Baptist of 1689 is the exact same thing. It's just said in Baptist-y words.
Yeah. Headship isn't a power play. Right. Headship is, first of all, the husband cannot violate his wife's conscience. He cannot command her to do anything that is outside of God's own law. I've heard patriarchalists. I had a patriarchalist tell me this one time that if he told his wife to go make him a sandwich, that's now a law that she is obligated to obey before God. And I'm like, that's funny. No, that's anti-confessional.
I'd be writing that in the back of my Bible.
He's like, sweet, I can get a sandwich.
Sandwich on demand.
So, I hold to the historical view on headship. I do not hold to the patriarchalist view on headship.
Well, in remembering too that headship is about protection.
Yeah, it's about protection. It's about building consensus. It does involve listening to your wife. You are not just the order taker and she the order follower. That is actually collapsing. So the way that we know how marriage is supposed to work is by looking at Christ and the way he treats the church as bride. That's the analogy that we learn from. And patriarchalism inflates headship to a place of Christ, which is actually blasphemous, and collapses the Christian liberty and freedom of conscience that was bought for his wife in Christ.
Absolutely. So, yeah. So I just, we're at that kind of the wrap up part of this. And so I'm just throwing some of the random comments and stuff that were out there because as soon as I see them, I already know what your answer is going to be. And it's chances are people aren't paying attention now anyway that ask the question. But do you foresee a shift, because libertarianism within Christianity is growing by leaps and bounds in ways that it had people would have never imagined it even being possible. And I'm like, well, you didn't understand, the libertarian ideology of a lot of especially within Reformed theology. It's strongly libertarian. Rutherford, when he penned Lex Rex, was really writing a libertarian treatise on government from a biblical perspective. When he said, no, the king's not the law. The law is the law, and the law is from God, and so the law is over the king, and therefore we don't have to do what the king says if it's not in keeping with the law. And then, John Locke comes along and says, hey, I like your book, but I'm going to steal it. And write it I'm Christian, but I'm going to take your book and I'm going to write this in non-Christian, in not non-Christian, but in strictly layman's terms, which if you read Rutherford and then Locke, Rutherford's even deeper than Locke.
Mm-hmm.
And so Lockean philosophy comes in, takes Rutherfordian philosophy, which was, borrowing, not only taking from the Bible, but also Aristotelian philosophy. And then the founders all like, hey, we like that. Let's have independence because the king's not in charge. And so, there were multiple Reformed Christians responsible for that. The what we're experiencing this year, the celebration of 250 years of independence, which was really only about 10 years of independence. But and then Lincoln came along and just completely screwed it all up. And we have this burgeoning reawakening of libertarianism within Christianity, and it's exciting. I know you guys at the Libertarian Christian Institute have to just be like sitting here, you're just watching this unfold and going, yay, because I'm running into more and more and more people who are like, yeah, I'm absolutely 100% Christian and I'm 100% a libertarian.
Yeah. Speaking of, so LCI is going to be publishing a book. I'm not sure what the title is, but it's basically it's a 4 views book.
You were mentioning that.
Yeah.
The last one.
And the authors each are taking a different theological tradition and explaining why libertarianism is compatible from that tradition's perspective. And my co-host on Reformed Libertarians Podcast, Gregory Baus, and I are writing the Reformed view on that. And so, if any of your audience, whether they're Reformed or not, are interested in how Christians come to understand libertarianism in relation to their faith, that'll be a good source.
The eye-opening thing for me, and this won't surprise you, was how absolutely propagandized I was when I was reading the quintessential Romans 13 treaty on government. And and even Peter in his epistle talks about honoring the king and on and on and on. But when I began to understand Reformed theology, and then I began to read places like Romans chapter 13, and was reading, taking in, Rothbard and gosh, who else was I thinking of? Besides Spooner, I had a name clearly in my head. Now I can't think of it. But I started to take all this in, and I'm like, Romans 13 is not teaching what the average Christian pastor tells you Romans 13 is teaching. It's not at all. And because if it is, then we need to submit ourselves to Great Britain again.
Yeah.
And Calvin summed it up, and nobody believes that Calvin summed things up in a very precise way, but he did. All of Calvin's works are quotable. when God chooses to judge a nation, he grants them wicked rulers. Not kings, wicked rulers. He grants them wicked rulers. And when you apply Romans 13 to the United States, it removes presidents from being the king, the government. The government, according to our founders, which were writing from a very classical liberal or libertarian perspective with Reformed theology as the basis for most of their work, told you what our ruling authority in the United States is. It's the Constitution and then we the people. And once you look at Romans 13 through that lens in the United States, any usurpation by any level of government of that umbrella, if you want to use headship as an example, of that umbrella is absolutely devastating. The Constitution is it. So when they're doing anything at all that violates the Constitution, Christian libertarians can point and go, Constitution, folks, not presidents, not governors, not mayors, not city council members, not cops. Yeah. Because the job of government is to reward those that do good and punish those that do evil.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I at one point considered myself a constitutionalist, and in some respect, you know, obviously I still think that some of those principles are still worth something. I tend to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, black-pilled about who rules. I don't think that the Constitution rules anymore.
No, I don't
for
think
a very
it does
long
either.
time.
No, I 100% agree, but
I would
if
say
we were doing it the way the founders intended it.
Yeah. I would say, you know, what Romans 13 is doing is it's saying it's not describing what all governments are, right? There are people who will look at Romans 13 and be like, Paul wrote this in the context of Nero, therefore he's describing Nero. Like and Nero was, you know, feeding Christians to lions. And we can't say that Nero feeding Christians to lions was good in any sense, right? That wasn't civil justice. And strangely enough, we have Christians who literally argue that. What Romans 13 is doing is it's prescribing what God ordained civil governance ought to be, right? And we've got a lot of information on reformedlibertarians.com about why we hold that Romans 13 is only talking about rights violations. It's not talking about, you know, policing non-aggressive immorality. But yeah, Romans 13 is misread by a lot of people who think that it's, you know, baptizing the system that they're comfortable with.
100%.
And that's not.
So that's my primary argument. Every time somebody says we have to go into, let's just use Iran, we have to go to Iran and give them regime change. Why? Because their government's oppressive. Yeah, but you're a Christian. Yeah, but that's the government that God established over Iran. No, he didn't. Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute. This is what all government is appointed by God. So. Yeah. So which one is it? Like,
yeah, well, and especially in the new covenant era, Christians aren't permitted to use the power of the sword for the job of the power of the keys, which is the church, right? We're not allowed to use the sword to compel obedience to God. That's not permitted. We can use persuasion. That is where our, you know, the power of the keys is in preaching the gospel and utilizing the ordinary means of grace in order to, you know, bring people back to God. But that is not done through the sword.
Oh, come on now, Kerry. It's okay as long as it's us doing it. because we are God's. Well, okay, we can't be God's chosen people because that other place is God's chosen people, and they never do anything wrong.
Don't tell the dispensationalists that.
And they are. That's a different thing. Completely different show. Man. No, it's you can't, and that's what I try to get people to understand. Like you have to have a philosophically consistent perspective. You can't, and it's funny to me. You mentioned cognitive dissonance earlier. Part of the conversation. You cannot hold a position that causes you to have your own cognitive dissonance when you're met with an objection. And it's whether it's drug addicts cannot be helped, even though I was a drug addict, not me. I'm speaking of somebody else we were talking about. You can't say that drug addicts can't be helped and now yourself also be a recovering drug addict or freed of that addiction. But look at all the others and say that they're all beyond help. I'm just, like, that's actually pretty narcissistic, really. Like, I was good enough to be able to get, cured, but not you. You are a lost cause. When is Freedom Fest?
Freedom Fest is July 8th through the 11th. And they have not posted the official schedule yet, but I am slated to have the debate on Friday, July 10th at 2 p.m.
Where is it this year?
It is in Vegas.
Oh, it's always in Vegas, isn't it?
Every other year.
Every
other year it's in Vegas. And then in the off years, the off seasons, they go somewhere else. So last year it was someplace in California. I forget.
Well, they could try and get a little bit out of the West. They could try it in Minnesota.
They've done it in Memphis. Yeah, Tennessee.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
They could try Minnesota, so maybe I could get there.
There you go.
Are you still working on? Your argument's already locked down, but are you?
Yeah, right now I'm working on, making sure that the pieces that I bring to the fore in what's going to amount to like 15 to 17 minutes of my own speaking time is what I want to say. Yeah. Huh?
Is that just your opening?
No. So the time slot that we have available is 45 minutes. We're probably going to give some time for Q&A. But when you break that down between Shermer and I, and then also moderator questions, I've got basically like 15, 17 minutes of speaking time total. So right now it's just making my arguments really concise.
Good. Which is hard, especially for Reformed Libertarians. We like to
wax eloquent.
We like to wax eloquently.
Yes.
Sometimes just wax, eloquent or not. So where can everybody find? Once again, we're not looking for your address or your pinpoint location. Where can people find your digital footprint?
Yeah, everything can be found on mereliberty.com. You can also find me on the Libertarian Christians website, libertarianchristians.com, but all my content on there is the same as Mere Liberty. Mere Liberty is the main hub for everything. So the Dare to Think podcast, my online courses in critical thinking. You can also follow me on Substack. I've decided to use Substack as a sort of social platform because Facebook stinks. So you can follow me on Substack.
Hey, one good thing came out of Facebook.
Which was?
Wow. I'm sitting right here with you.
Oh, your ability to message me.
Okay. Wow. Just always, I love it when my guests keep me humble. That's the best. I have no idea. What are you talking about, TC? That's how we met. I thought you said there was a positive. So.
Oh. Hey, well, if you get to tease your guests get to tease back.
I know, that's why I took it so well. If you were my co-host from Veteran Nation Skipper, Mike Skipper Arthur, I would have literally kicked you out of the studio. I've done that to him so many times. Kicked him right out of the studio. Like make him log off and come back in.
That's funny.
He's a Marine, so sometimes it gets lost easy. So
yeah, I have 2 brothers who are Marines. They're fun.
Yeah, how's that? Yeah.
I keep the crayons away from them though.
So we get the crayons out to keep Skipper on task. I had to find a crayon font to text him. Well, Kerry, I really appreciate your time. I look forward to hearing how your debate goes. And do you know, are they going to put that out where people are going to be able to see it after the event?
It is. It's being streamed on Civil. It's a streaming platform. To my knowledge, based on previous experience, it'll be recorded and we'll get access to the recording.
That's excellent.
So yeah.
So well, you go and enjoy your afternoon. It's afternoon for you now. So
it is. It's officially afternoon, and it's officially lawn mowing time for you.
And you didn't need to say that. I know. I'm well aware, and you rubbing it in does not help, and it does not make it better. So
I'm sorry.
No, I actually enjoy taking care of my yard. I really do. I'm just feeling lazy today. So
yeah.
But well, you go and enjoy the rest of your day, and let me know how it goes when you finish up. I won't harass you for another appearance until well after you're done.
Got it. Yeah. Everybody who follows me will know how it turned out. So
you will let us all know.
I'm going to let you all know.
Well, thank you for your. Yes, I won. That's all you need to know. Trust me. The votes all went my way. So it's like Ed Gallerin and Thomas Massey. It's going to be that much of a landslide. So
that means Shermer's going to win.
Yeah, I suppose it's bad analogy on my part. So. All right. Well, you have a good day. I will close.
All right. Thank you.
Shop and go mow. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll see you.
See you later. The extremely erudite and articulate Kerry Baldwin from Mere Liberty. So that's why I did the play on the Mere Liberty Fest. So it's a great event, by the way. And if you haven't looked into libertarian thought and philosophy, anarcho-capitalism, whatever you want to call it, the free market, all of that, I would strongly suggest that you check out her work, especially if you are a Christian and you find yourself getting a little fed up with the way Christianity in the United States is being handled right now as a political weapon instead of a religion of peace is what it's supposed to be. I would strongly encourage you to check out the Libertarian Christian Institute. They do great work. They have lots of good thinkers over there. So definitely check it out. More and more content coming out. I am working on getting a few more guests on for Libertarian Lowdown as the summer progresses. And we're going to have Tonda on, not for Libertarian Lowdown, but Tonda from the Jamie Lyle Lucas Perfect Victim story. We're going to have her on. We're going to have Jamie's mother on pretty soon and a couple of other relatives of Jamie's. And from there, we are going to, I like that better. And then from there, we're going to be doing some more stuff about Cass County. And we're going to be covering some other political election pieces here in the state of Minnesota. There's some very nefarious things happening in Minnesota within the DFL and the Republican Party. And if you haven't been paying attention to that, I strongly encourage you to do so. So thanks for tuning in. We had a really good amount of people viewing today, and that's encouraging. So until next time, my friends, fight for your freedom. It is yours. Fight for your liberty. It belongs to you. And as always, sic semper tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-30. Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. Secondary guidance systems engaged. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark. Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at